golden era gaming.
Hello and welcome to Golden Era Gaming. I'm your host Martin and joined by the underling Martin, and we are the Martin Brothers.
Super Martin Brothers.
Yep. Never forget. Not the Hyper Martin Brothers, but...
Well, actually, are we Super Martin Bros? Or Martin Brothers?
Do you pronounce Bros Brothers when it's B-R-O-S? That's a good question.
Well, we can...
We'll
look into
actually
it.
Say Super Mario Bros?
They say Super Mario Bros.
Not that we are in any way affiliated with the Super Mario Bros. We are completely unique and no copyright infringement whatsoever.
Exactly.
We are the Super Martin Bros Brothers.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Either or.
Yeah. Just so that is us. That's our lovely welcome to you guys. That is the Golden Era Gaming thing that we do. We're actually doing a show called A to Zelda, which is basically us playing every single game on the 16-bit consoles, Super Nintendo, and the Super Sega Mega Drive.
Yeah.
And every week we sort of go through all the games of one particular letter. Today we're doing H, and some weeks there will be lots of brilliant games, some weeks there'll be lots of rubbish games, and some weeks there will be not so many games
not very many games,
either good or rubbish. Yeah, it's true. Luck of the draw. So
Martin.
How are you, Martin?
Oh yeah, I'm not too bad actually. I'm actually feeling quite buoyant today, just in a good mood. Yeah,
good.
I've actually, which is strange because I've been working very hard this week. Not only have I been researching the games of the letter H
working
on the SNES, which is the day job. I also thought, as it's the quarter mark, I'd go and delve into some of the stats, even though I don't like stats, but just to see what things are looking like. But before we get into the stats, back to the Martins, just marketing in general, actually. Every week we've had quite good runners-up, haven't we? I've been very impressed with the runners-up every week, haven't you?
Yeah.
So what would you say that consistent runner-up quality is?
Do you mean like the very first best loser kind of game?
Yeah, the best loser.
Yeah.
It's been good, isn't it?
It's always been... In some respects, it could even have been the number one, but maybe something held it back. But it was usually like the quirkier one, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. But consistently good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And pretty good. So I was thinking maybe we should market ourselves. I thought of a new slogan that hasn't been used, but it's very well known.
Yeah.
It'd be like Super Martin Brothers, always second best. Like consistently up there with the best. It's reassuring, reliable, consistent, mixing it with the best, but keeping it low key and modestly understated.
What? I don't even understand.
Always second best.
Always second best. That's terrible.
Always. I thought you might. Because it's always used as a negative, and I thought, actually, no, it's good, isn't it? You know, always second best is always referred to negatively, but I think always second best should be like a positive thing. Like, you never last, you're never rubbish.
No,
always second best.
Always second best. That's like really depressing. Like, always a bridesmaid. Oh, but I like being a bridesmaid.
Well. Right, so let's
what
say
are we
you go
using this for?
If you went to a posh restaurant, most people just pick the bottle of wine, like not the cheapest, the next one up. So second from bottom. What if you were always given the second best one, like the second one from the top? You'd be thinking, "Whoa, I love going to that place. They always give me the second from the best."
But
always
not if he
second
always
best.
said...
I'd say to
No,
them,
they always
this
said-
wine is... You always give us always the second best meal I've ever had.
Exactly. But the way that they'd bring it out would be, here you go, it is it's the second best thing we have here. Well, it's okay for you, I think. You'd be like, thanks very much. No one wants second best, that's the thing. And I
hang
agree
on.
with you in
No.
principle,
Yeah.
but nobody wants the second best anything. Like, they're always looking at, I need the best, who makes the best porridge? Oh, I can't have
All
the
right.
second
Wouldn't
best.
you, if you were a pop star, wouldn't you like to be like at number 2 forever? Other artists come and go from the number 1 spot, but Martin, the Super Martin Brothers hit single, Martin to Martin, has been at number 2 for 10 years.
No, 'cause you'd be
Absolute quality, they'd say.
No, that would be your thing. People would just know you as, they're the guys who never had a number one. They've got the record for
They would
most
go on about that, actually, wouldn't they?
singles sold ever that never made.
All right, fine.
one.
Well, that's okay. Well, that's a week wasted then, isn't it?
Is that what you've been working on all week?
It's marketing. It's the marketing strategy.
Who are we marketing to with this?
This podcast.
In general.
Well, people
Yeah.
that want a podcast that's...
If I heard the second best podcast and I was interested in it, I'd instantly go, I wonder who's making the best one, and I'll listen to that instead.
Yeah, but we're always second best.
Yeah, but I would.
You might make
I'd
a
go,
good
well, that-
podcast one week and then a rubbish one the next week. Ours is always second best. Always.
Couldn't we be always best and second best?
Well, yeah,
If you prefer second place stuff, we've got you covered. And worst. The best and worst podcast.
No, because
Kind of like the first and last.
I'd rather be
I'm
always
going to go
second
have
best.
a pint at the best and worst.
The best and worst podcast I've ever heard. That's quite offensive, though. It's the second best podcast I've ever heard. Oh, thank you very much. I won't ask any
Well,
more
that's-
questions.
Second best is like really passive aggressive. You guys are so good. You're like the second best podcast.
And then they'll be
Like,
joking like, he's the second best Martin brother. They both are.
That's a good one. I like that.
Well, I am the marketing department, so
Yeah.
I'll take that through. See what I can come up with next week.
Who do you think is the best Martin brother? They're both second best.
Yeah.
That is excellent. Yeah, okay.
That's like negative marketing. I think this marketing is actually... They said there's no such thing as bad PR, but I think this marketing department is bad for PR.
Yeah.
Anyway,
We've got the worst marketing department
so
in
I've
the
quit.
world.
I've quit as
TM.
that, and now I've gone into the performance department. I'm looking at some stats this week. I thought you might find them interesting.
Yeah.
Even though we're not really interested in stats, but just to look at, first of all, the strongest letter.
Yeah.
They're all actually from the algorithm that I've plugged in on all the games that have made the top 5. So the top 5 of every letter, I've sort of scored each game and then worked out, which is the best letter that we've had so far.
Yeah.
It's coming up with E. E is the top game, closely followed by C.
Yeah.
And then very closely followed by F.
E,
So-
C, F. Okay.
But-
What letter was E games? They had
E we
Earthbound
had-
was a runner-up, I think.
And Earthworm Jim,
Earthworm
and
Jim,
Echo the
yeah.
Dolphin,
Yeah.
Eternal Champion. So E is the letter to beat in terms of quality so far.
Well, are we going to do it today with the H's, Martin?
I'm not a betting man, but I would not bet on it.
I've got a feeling that versus E, H might end up second best.
I also need a couple more stats to throw at you.
Yeah.
This is into console. Now, actually, I hope that viewers have understood that actually the message we're trying to convey is that the war is over and you can enjoy both games. That's why we're ranking them in a top 5. But it's just interesting to see the breakdown of games
Yeah.
I've made a bit of a medals table of gold would be Hall of Game entries.
Yeah.
Silver would be runners-up.
Yeah.
And bronze would go to the games that are in the top 5. Yeah, the 3 games every week that are in the top 5. So if it's Olympic style, and you're going with gold being the most important, Mega Drive's got 1 gold, SNES has got 3 golds, but the joint, so games that are available on both systems, has also got 3.
Okay.
So they would be joint top. But where we see a bit of a change is that Mega Drive was actually in the runners-up, the silver medals. So far, Mega Drive's got 4 runners-up, which is 57% of all shows. The joint, there's 1 shared runner-up, and SNES has got 2 runners-up. And again, top 5 entries. Again, Mega Drive slightly tipping the balance at 6, SNES at 4, but joint at 11. So the games that are shared amongst them are actually outweigh their individual titles. But if we were to convert, I've done 2 conversions for points. If you were to give 2 points to a gold, 1 point to a silver, and half a point to a bronze, you'd have SNES at 10 points and Mega Drive at 9 points, so very neck and neck. If you were to change it and weight it 3 points for gold, 2 for silver, and 1 for a bronze, it would be dead straight at 17 points each. So, so I think Nintendo are popping out the big hitters, but Mega Drive seemed to be supplementing it with, quite a nice variety of sort of top titles. That's how the graphics are showing it to be at the moment.
You could almost say that the Mega Drive is always second best.
Well, that's no bad thing, is it? It is bad when it's just like a 2-horse race, though.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's everything.
All right, more
so we can cut that out.
Stats for you guys next week.
No, there won't be any next week. That's just the first quarter, and I don't want it to actually sway what we because I think we've been quite neutral in just selecting the best games. It was just a little breakdown of if it's actually quite evenly matched. But
it has felt quite even, although it does seem like the last couple of weeks I've been getting the worst system, whichever one I'm on. So let's see if that's the case today as well.
You are consistently moaning about the games you're given, though. That's at least a constant too. That's a pattern that I recognised.
Yeah, that's a good observation there. Do some stats on who's the whingiest Martin brother.
Okay. Well, that's enough guff out the way, I suppose.
Okay.
Should we
let's
play
A to Zelda?
A to Zelda.
So, I think you're going first this week, Martin, because you're on the old SNES Drive.
Well, is that what we're doing? I mean, it was all kicking off last week when we were talking about should we be altering the order rather than going SNES first every week.
Didn't we come to the conclusion that 26 divides into half quite nicely?
But didn't we also come to the conclusion that like the letters R, S and T alone make up for probably more than half of the rest of the games?
I don't remember that discussion. I mean, that's just the luck of the draw.
Top heavy. Well, okay, that's just the luck of the draw. All right. Well, we'll continue.
Do you think? Okay, if anyone's got a better idea, but maybe at halfway we'll switch and do Mega Drive first.
All right. I suppose you've got the tail enders like X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I mean,
it's going to be fine.
It's going to be fine. We're trying to be neutral and balanced, just like Fox News.
Exactly. Okay. Well, I've already got the sneaking suspicion that you weren't overly impressed with H, the letter H.
That's just because I like to whinge, apparently. So I'm sure that your games were all wonderful, weren't they, Martin?
All right. No, I'm not allowed to slag them off. No, I thought it was not as... I don't think it was as much in terms of quantity anyway. But so it was a smaller pool, but that hasn't been a problem up to now on the smaller letters. But today I
Small
felt
is fine as long as it's not full of urine.
I was worried actually that we're going to be dishing out a Hall of Game entry, and it's not going to be worthy. That was and I thought, how are we going to get top 5 out of these? But anyway, don't tune out because this is we haven't given away the ending. This is the
Give
beginning.
them a chance. We played through the entire week of games, guys. You can listen to a little bit of podcast.
If
of
I was,
a few
I
rubbish
was just
games.
looking at my games, and at first glance, it was just full of crap licensed games. That was the biggest thing I noticed. And if I was a kid and I had loads of money, I'd have definitely bought like Home Alone 1 and 2 and the Hurricanes, and probably even Home Improvement, because you think, oh yeah, great, and
How could they screw that
it
up?
would have been so disappointing. All of those.
Yeah.
But here's 2 that weren't quite so bad in terms of the licensed games. My first sort of recommendation was Hook, as in Peter Pan, Hook, 1992 platform game, based on what I quite liked about it is that I love the film Hook. So it only really had to be slightly good, and I was going to pick it, because you don't see much like spin-off Hook stuff, do you?
Yeah.
For such a, it's Robin Williams. You've got Rufio, who is an original Peter Pan character. The
Dustin
video,
Hoffman,
yeah. No,
directed by Steven Spielberg. Sounds like it should be great.
and you know what? I've picked it. It's not a bad licensed platformer. It loosely follows the film. You sort of go around Neverland and like that Mario thing where you do a level and then you go a bit further along the map. But what I quite liked, which was quite a nice touch, is that first of all, the first level, the music is quite accurate to the film. It's like the film, it echoes the film. But the first level, the enemies are the lost boys, and when you sort of strike them with your sword, they hold up their hands like in submission.
Yeah.
And the baddie boss in the first level is
Rufio.
It is. And when you win, you get their backing, and there's a little dialogue, and it says, "You are the Pan." And I thought that felt pretty good, just as a game, if you like the film.
Yeah.
But the thing that didn't quite feel good is that you aren't Peter Panning at that point, i.e. you're not in a suit. You are actually dressed like Peter Pan. So really, he should be the old man at that point. So they didn't quite do that to him.
When you get, I don't know if actually it's the same as the Mega Drive game, but in the Mega Drive game, if you get kind of beaten up, your Pan costume falls off and you're wearing your Peter Panning suit.
Oh yeah. That's when you sort of die. Yeah. That's quite good. But if they've already done that animation, they could have just had him as Peter Panning for that first level.
Yeah, and he could have earned his
the sword
Pan costume.
So what I liked about it is the soundtrack's really nice, and it's quite nicely done. It's quite jolly. It's actually a really good game if you can play both to actually see the difference between the two systems, i.e. in the sound. The sound alone, you hear what instrument the Mega Drive is compared to the SNES. They're both nice. They're both good, and they're both in their own rights, but you can really hear the differences in the hardware. The SNES game, the colours are a bit more vibrant, but the Mega Drive game, it's a tiny bit faster. It's still a bit slow though, and that's one of my...
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about the music here or the gameplay?
Oh, I'm talking about gameplay now. I've merged. Just in general, the contrast. I thought that when I played both, I thought the Mega Drive was slightly faster, and the colours on the SNES one were slightly nicer.
My main note from Hook on the Mega Drive, I didn't actually play the SNES one this week, was that it was ruined by being really too sluggish. It felt really, really sluggish to play.
Yeah. It is really sluggish, but
even more sluggish
when I
on
played the
SNES.
Mega Drive one, it was slightly quicker. So that was, and it's not that responsive either. And for an agile guy like Peter Pan, you'd think, they really needed it to be quick. He does have a cool thing where when he jumps, he sort of hovers. It's got quite a nice style. It's nicely animated. But yeah, that's why I think it is probably, if you like Hook, it's quite a nice game to get lost in for a little bit. It's a little bit tricky, but it does have some sort of like learning curve. You do get better at it, and you get loads of lives and continues. So that's that one. My next one, unusually, and I'm not sure why I like this game, but I quite did. It's quite an early game, 1990. It's another licensed game, The Hunt for Red October, the film, which is like, like a normal shooter game where you're like an aeroplane, you have to go around shooting stuff. This, you're a submarine and it's all underwater.
I remember the film.
It sort of really shouldn't be any good, but it sort of is quite addictive. It's slightly, the music's a slightly muted black and white silent film, where they play the piano in the background. That's the sort of accompanying music, which isn't really fitting, but it worked quite well. And you basically float around in a very densely packed waters, i.e. packed with other submarines, boats, planes above you dropping stuff in. You wouldn't believe how densely packed this waterway is. And you have missiles, rockets, bombs, and you sort of have to dodge your way through and shoot a whole load of stuff. But it's quite slow. Like, if you want to stop and move, it takes a while to adjust, but it's quite calming, really. It's a bit, I suppose, a bit like Echo the Dolphin. You're underwater.
So
but you end up pressing really hard. Like when you want to go down, it's going to take a while to get down, but you end up just pressing harder to make it good. And then there's This is something you might remember. There's a little bonus level that's a bit like Dynamite Duke, but if you have a Nintendo Super Scope, it actually works in this game.
Wow!
So if you happen to have the Super Scope to hand, you can use it for that tiny little bonus level.
Is there a modern equivalent, like a retro gamer replacement for that? Like a sort of a USB scope?
There probably is. They sell stuff for everything. But I suppose if you had a D-pad, like an analog stick on a Bluetooth thing, then you could probably slide along, and it wouldn't be so hard. But I don't know. It's not worth investing in. I wouldn't.
Not too much action in this game. Then it's kind of because the film is like if really you're making an accurate game, it would be just a lot of talking, hanging around in a submarine, and then avoid a missile, and then you win. But I'm guessing there's a bit more action than that.
Yeah, it's slow action, but it's constant and continual. So you'll see little bombs and missiles come at you, and they come quite slowly, so you can just about manoeuvre your submarine out of the way. It's quite fun. I quite liked it. I don't really like shooters. I don't think I've recommended any aeroplane-based shooters.
It's been a while since I watched that, but does Sean Connery have a Russian accent in that, or is he just doing his normal accent?
I think
and they're like,
that's
can
what
you
he does.
do a Russian? I am doing my Russian accent. What do you think I'm doing? This is my finest accent.
Do you know who I am? No, because it's all about... I remember walking in, I think, when you were watching it, and it was all about, he wants to defect. Defect. Yeah. They just talk about defecting over the whole film.
So it's like an option, like an RPG. Would you like to defect? Yes. No. No. Are you sure? Would you like to defect now? Yes.
Oh, hang on a minute. Did you just say RPG?
Why?
Well, that's I'd like to float my way into the next game that I'd like to put forward. Now, when is an RPG not an RPG?
Don't know. When it's something else?
Maybe when it's a farming simulator RPG. Well, you laugh, but almost things that I sort of don't like about RPGs is that when you walk around and you stumble upon a baddie, then you have to have a boring battle scene, and then you have to get your experience points up. Well, this is sort of an RPG with no battles, no adventuring, just old-fashioned hard graft. Okay. And you do actually have to work quite hard. Yeah, physically
of your
lift turnips up individually. You can't just go, oh yeah, I planted a whole load of seeds. You have to you have to pull up a turnip and then walk it to like the storage area or where it gets collected. So, towards the end of like a day of playing Harvest Moon, by the way, this is the game, I felt like I had been out at work farming the fields.
Did you play this game just because you like Neil Young? Doesn't he have an album called?
He does actually.
Oh, it's just Harvest.
No, it's
Harvest Moon.
He's got one called Harvest Moon and Harvest.
Okay, Full Harvest, Bad Harvest by
Bad.
Neil Young. The new album.
Well, it's a bit cheating, really. I thought because it came out in Japan in 1996, America in 97, and UK in 1998. What? You can't have a game that came that late. It's got a bit of a legendary following there now because there's millions of games I saw. Very late to the party, so maybe cheating.
Game.
You know what? It's classed as sort of a simulator / RPG, but I think it's got more things in line with like a game like The Sims. One of those, or Theme Park or something like that, where
Theme parks,
because you're really what. The idea of this is you're restoring your father's rundown farm, literally with hard graft, weeding, sowing, feeding, even walking to the shed to like swap your tools. But you have things like love interests and happiness are assessed at sort of the end of the game, where you have like a judgment day of how you've done, and there's a few mystical things like that come in. So it's quite a charming little game. It's nicely done. I always like to reward things that are different. It's got a nice classic sort of SNES RPG soundtrack and those beautiful sort of RPG graphics. So, that is Harvest Moon. And that is, it's sort of a game I might quite like to do. It's sort of my kind of RPG.
Yeah.
Because it's not really an RPG, but it looks and smells like an RPG. And you go around talking to people, but there's none of the sort of the fuss. And you don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to really leave the village.
Yeah. This is kind of like when I selected the fishing game a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost if we made it even more boring, we could add it to our own list of in-house
it could be
games.
one of our games, couldn't it? Farming simulator.
If it was more like just say
Manual labour
household
simulator.
plants, you're just growing plants.
Yeah.
That you have to. It's real time, so you got to water them every day. And
That's like a Tamagotchi, isn't it? That was what it was. It was like, I had a friend at school who had a Tamagotchi, but it was a baby. So you had to this baby's done a wee, got to change the nappy. And that's not much different, like to tending to your house plants, is it?
Yeah.
I need to water the house plants.
Always wanted one of those. What would the secret game be? It's usually like a secret game hidden in our boring game. Maybe it'd be that you're growing like illicit substances secretly.
It'd be like
in the
a cannabis
basement.
cultivator.
Yeah. But on the surface, you're growing like rhododendrons and things.
Yeah, you need to have that background in horticulture.
And an excuse for why you're buying all the fertilizer.
Yeah, because farming don't
the cops
pay.
come around and you're like, look, it's the plants. Would you like a cup of chamomile tea, homegrown?
Come on, guys, you look like you need to take your weight off.
Good stuff.
But in terms of, you're at the start of an RPG when you're in the village anyway, and they're like, we need to go and find the secret crystal from the mountains over there.
Yeah.
This is sort of like how I would probably be. I'd be like, you know what? I think I'm just gonna. I've got some maintenance to do around the place. I think I'm just gonna stay in the village.
Yeah.
You guys go. So I think it probably is my kind of RPG.
Yeah. There's a battle going on, and you're like, well, the soldiers need food, don't they? So I'm going to stay here. You guys go off on your quest. If you need a turnip, come back and pay me the gold that you found on your quest, and I will give you a fresh turnip.
Exactly. Anyway, let me move on. I just want to touch on a couple of games because these are sort of just hanging on to my picks, just about.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
probably because of innovation, if anything. Like there's mountains of sports games, isn't there, on these consoles that are almost just worth totally ignoring. Whereas these are 2 games to follow are just got an innovative edge that just means they're worthy of a mention. The first one is a game called Hit the Ice. Hit the Ice.
Hockey game.
That is an NBA Jam, or Barclay Sharp and Jam, style hockey game.
Oh, sounds good.
However, as this game came out in 1990, perhaps NBA Jam should be described as a Hit the Ice style basketball game. Because that came out, NBA Jam came out in 1993. Anyway, we won't go into that because we're new and improved this week. But so this is a 3v3, like a goalie, a defender, attacker, 3v3 hockey game. Big sprites favouring the rougher side of hockey in a sort of a cartoony style. And interestingly, as well, like NBA Jam, it has, like, I call it loser compensation. That you might notice in like Mario Kart, that it gives you all the good stuff when you're losing. But in NBA Jam they have this. But obviously first seen here in Hit the Ice, when you're losing you're given like more advantages. Like your shots, you get more super shots. So you can like whack it and it automatically goes in. And this was a feature in NBA Jam where you just get, your shots just go in if you're losing more. So that's Hit the Ice. It's a pretty cool game, pretty fun actually. It's probably up there with, as an entry level like hockey game, it's a good one to pick. We said that, didn't we, about Barclay Sharp and Jam? It's more accessible.
Yeah.
If you simplify it, you're allowed to hack as much as you like. They really encourage the fighting and the violence. But and lastly, this is a game called Hammerlock Wrestling, 1994. It's a wrestling game. It's not that good of a game really, but the visuals alone are just a bit different.
Yeah.
You've got sort of spoof characters, first of all. It's a bit sluggish. But the screen is split into 3 letterboxes, if you imagine. The middle is like the classic view of the wrestling bout itself. And the top view, you have a zoomed in animation / close-up of your fighter. And the bottom half is your opponent, sort of zoomed in. Like Jumbotron or Jumbo Screen. So, but then when like a big move happens, it sort of goes to the animated screen. The 2 screens merge, and then you get a big action sequence. But it does make the game a bit disjointed. But I did feel like, imagine like stadium wrestling where you're in the crowd and you're watching the action happening, and then you're going to the big screen to watch. It felt like, probably as a spectator of the game, it would probably be quite cool to watch. If you're going around to a friend's house and they're not letting you play, but you have to watch. So, not the best game, but different and not like totally licensed that they have to be accurate, and they just tried something different. And so that was Hammerlock Wrestling, 1994, and that is my dump. Of course, which we didn't interact. So that's the SNES dump.
Very nice. Not bad. So I better get started on the old Mega Drive. Well, there were a lot of licensed games, weren't there? And just to put a finer point on it, a lot of badly licensed games.
Yeah,
we've already covered Hook. I was going to mention that one, but it was definitely for me let down with very sluggish response. For that kind of game, you really need it to be a bit snappier.
Yeah.
So let's move on. You didn't actually talk about the Hurricanes, did you? I was thinking about picking it. I mean, it was a sign of the bad quality with H, in that I really slagged off Kid Cleats.
I know. I was thinking this.
And suddenly, at this point, the Hurricanes are nearly at the end of my list. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is fun. I'm like, actually, it's really not. It's quite rubbish. But
it's almost the same concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like the same, except it's got like a franchise already behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was genuinely excited switching it on because I didn't read anything about it beforehand, and I thought, is it going to be an actual football game? Is it going to be how are they going to do this? And it was a kind of kid cleats sort of, you kick the ball at baddies.
So it's a soccer platform game, isn't it?
Yeah.
And we said there wouldn't be any more of those, but
it's its own genre. Just I don't know if it's. I mean, it's exactly the same time as all the other stuff comes out in America, that they're desperately trying to convince Americans to get into soccer because the World Cup is about to be hosted, which I don't know how well that worked out. But just if anyone in America is listening, and in case you have never played it before, so you don't know, getting hit by a soccer ball, although it stings a bit, it's not going to kill you. But these platformers seem to have the idea that kicking a football at a baddie will mean that they disappear. And these are just, it's not like a special bomb football or anything. It's just because he gets thrown a new one every time, like a throw in, like whoosh, someone is off screen just kind of handing him a new ball. Actually, you could pick which of the characters you wanted, which was fun. So I did enjoy firing the game up, just because it's like, oh yeah, Hurricanes, and they got that weird announcer guy who's like, okay, what does he say? What is his catchphrase?
like, go the Hurricanes! You should watch. I mean, people should watch the Hurricanes.
Yeah,
I used to love that show. You know, I got thinking about the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes every week. The Hurricanes are like your teammate of Roy the Rovers. They're too good to be true, aren't they? They're too honest and helpful. And the Gorgons will do anything it takes to win. And they're like gruesome. They're all animated really gruesomely, and they're the bad guys every week. But I was thinking,
bad guys.
I felt a bit sorry for them because they're not doing anything that bad. They still want to win, and the Hurricanes still want to win. Don't pretend that they don't want to win. So why, just because I suppose it's because they want to cheat to win, is why the Gorgons are. But isn't that modern day sports? I don't know.
Well,
like
I think
getting those percentage gains. That's what the Gorgons were doing ages ago.
It's a beautiful symbol of what it is to support a sports team, because the team that you support are the Hurricanes, aren't they? And they're always the good guys.
You've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly
always
what it is.
The evil, like, oh, look at them, they're always cheating. And whereas
so
in their mind, they are the Hurricanes, and they're looking at you guys as the Gorgons.
I think that's a good message for this podcast. It's sort of to bridge the gap between these.
That's true.
Everyone's so hate. The internet's so full of hate, and everyone's so divided. The consoles, we're trying to say, hey guys, look.
Yeah, you may have thought that your Sega was the Hurricanes, but the SNES people thought the same thing.
Exactly.
We're all the Hurricanes and the Gorgons. We've got a bit of Gorgon in us.
Hey, so why don't we mix up these teams and just have a friendly?
Yeah.
And we'll enjoy ourselves. And that's what we're doing.
That's all we're trying to do. Okay. Next up.
No one's probably watched the Hurricanes, so we'll probably have to cut that.
Yeah. I've just got the theme song in my head now. Good theme song. Okay, let me set the scene for this next game, Martin.
Okay.
So you play a blue-coloured sort of anthropomorphic animal human type thing.
Yeah.
Who runs across on the first level is a kind of, I'd describe it as a sort of a green hill kind of valley type area.
Yeah.
You're collecting
I can see
collecting gemstones.
Oh yeah.
If you crouch down, you do a kind of spin attack forward. What game are you thinking of?
Can only be one game. High Seas Havoc.
High Seas Havoc, indeed. So, I don't know if it was the sign of the week that I was having with H, but this was a great game, considering
I liked it.
what a dubious rip-off of Sonic it is.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome. And you wonder why they didn't just change up some of the stuff. Like, it's the parts that are very similar, like the kind of look of the main character and the look of the levels, that could have been quite easily changed.
Yeah, it almost wasn't piratey enough. They could have made it more piratey rather than more Sonic-y, couldn't they?
Yeah. I was also wondering, why wasn't this a SNES? You'd understand if SNES brought out High Seas Havoc, because they want to kind of steal a bit of the Sonic thunder and have their own Sonic. Unofficially, it wouldn't have anything to do with Nintendo. It would be another company, but they might be quite happy to have the game on board. So it's a bit weird that it is a Sega game. But, I mean, if you just think of it as almost like an unofficial spin-off, almost like a fan fiction.
Yeah.
It's a really fun, well playable game.
It was quite nice. I thought it was good. I liked it. Did you find, I only played it a little bit, did you find that it wasn't quite fast enough, or is there other things that you can unlock through the game that mean it almost felt like it was about a third slower than it should be?
Well, that's only because they modelled on Sonic so much. If they'd have just changed, because it feels like you're playing Sonic, and then you want to be able to do these really fast maneuvers. I think if they'd have just changed the look, and even some of the sound effects sound very Sonic-y, it wouldn't have taken much. They could have had very different backgrounds and visuals and stuff, and you wouldn't be instantly feeling like this is a slower version of Sonic. Yeah. The actual playability is actually really good, and it has got its own weird following.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
that's good. That's reassuring.
High Seas Havoc. It's actually a seal. You are not a hedgehog. Very different.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, apparently I had to look it up. I was like, what even is that? Yeah, you're a kind of a pirate seal. But yeah, you're right. They could have really pushed the pirate element a bit more.
That might have been quite fun.
Yeah. Like even when, you know how in the Sonic levels there's a little bit of edge of a cliff that will break away when you run over it. It's still got that running down hills. There's just, yeah. Anyway, it's a shame that they went for that so much. They actually shot themselves in the foot, the developers there, I think, because they've made a very playable game. That was High Seas Havoc. Okay. Let's get on to a licensed game. Home Alone. Now, I've put here kind of crap, kind of fun. Well, I looked into it a bit. This is actually quite a well-liked game. Or I don't know if it's well-liked. The main thing that I've been reading about it from different people and comments and stuff is that it's better than any Home Alone games on anything else like SNES or anything. So it might just be that the other versions were really bad. Because I actually didn't think it was very good. I thought, this is a bit rubbish. But I still enjoyed playing it a bit. You kind of go around on you start off you're on like a sled.
Oh, yeah.
And you go into different houses. You've got to sort of track down where the baddies are. Yeah, it was not too bad, but a bit weird looking.
Maybe I poo-pooed the SNES version too quickly, maybe.
No, apparently the SNES version is terrible, and I didn't actually find out if there were different developers. This was just like better.
Oh, that's good.
And I only just picked it.
There wasn't that many Mega Drive games this week, was there? Usually Mega Drive seems to have more quantity, but I think this week Mega Drive really didn't have very many.
Yeah. It might even have been my Stinky Dump. I think I had a few duffers this week, so I don't really have an official Stinky Dump. There's quite a few. Okay, this next one. This one's actually pretty good. This is called Herzog Zwei.
Oh yes. And what about Herzog 1 and Herzog... Oh, that is number 2.
All those years learning German paid off. Paid off well for you there, Martin. It's an early sort of version of a real-time strategy game. It came out quite a few years before June 2, which really became the kind of the benchmark for real-time strategy games. And a lot of people think that June 2 invented that genre. But Herzog Zwei was out in 1989 already. Many a moon before.
1989. Crikey.
Yeah. And so it was before June 2. What does Herzog Zwei mean, Martin, if we were to translate it?
I don't know.
Duke 2.
No way.
Yeah.
Does it?
So I'm not saying anything. Not calling June 2 a riff. Yeah, Duke 2. And there wasn't a Duke 1. It was before June 2. And there wasn't a June 1 either. So,
This.
conspiracy, you decide.
Well, it's the sort of conspiracy I don't want to look into. It's almost
Yeah,
too
no.
sinister, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's quite difficult to get into. But yeah, it's got quite a loyal following. And pretty good. Pretty good.
Pretty good.
If you like strategy games, give it a spin. You might be amazed at what they were up to back in the 80s.
1989. Oh, it does have, actually, it does have a banger opening credits music, doesn't it? I remember that. I had to go back and listen to it again because I thought, oh, that is your classic
Did you play
early
it back
Mega
in the day?
Drive. No, I played it this week.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I had never heard of it.
But yeah, that's the title music. If you like that sort of Mega Drive sound, it gets you pumping.
I'm just going to wrap up. Actually, this was a good one. This was called Haunting, starring Poltergeist. Not Poltergeist.
That's pretty cool.
Poltergeist. Yeah, and in a weird way, this felt a bit more like what Home Alone should have been. When I was playing it, I was like, I mean, the gameplay, the plot is very different and stuff, but the interaction with elements within the room, I sort of felt like maybe that's Home Alone is a bit.
That's what they should have gone
actiony.
for, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. So, did you give it a go?
I did give it a go, and I thought I actually gave it a quick go and didn't get it, and then I gave it another go at a later stage, and obviously the controls were probably a bit weird to begin with, but it's quite for like an early game. From what I gathered, I was going around as this green ghost kind of thing, and it was sort of in like a 3D-ish model of a room, and there would be a person in there, and I'd have to go up to like the fish tank, and I would do these poltergeist kind of things, and I'd have to try and scare the person. I'd have to scare them silly, a bit like Monsters Inc., how you're supposed to get a scream out of. I think that's the gist, and I thought, what genre of game is this?
Yeah,
This is certainly miscellaneous, surely.
Exactly. It's true. It's pretty much sums up how you play it. You first of all switch it on, and you're like, right, what have I got to jump on? What? And it's like, oh, okay. So yeah, it's a bit weird. It's kind of like how the Sims.
a bit creepy.
You can terrorize your Sims if you want to, can't you? But this is the actual name of the game. This is what you're actually supposed to do. You're terrorizing this family. You can terrorize them until they wet themselves. You can really make them get a bit scared.
I think I feel quite guilty about playing this game.
I know
It does actually look a bit like The Sims. You know how that Sims sort of 3D angle of the rooms and things, like The Sims on the PC. So I think The Sims might have looked at and copied a few things from The Haunting.
Yeah.
Copied a few things from, what were we talking about? Harvest Moon.
Yeah.
And probably Herzog Zwei
Yeah.
as well.
That's true. That's what definitely with this week, there were a few games that were like, they're not there, they didn't nail it, but it's almost like, oh, things to come, which I'm going to wrap up with the final game, a game called, just a very brief mention, This is called Hard Drivin, without the G. And I only mention it because, again, it's ahead of its time, but terrible. It's like you're driving with 3D shapes, with proper 3D polymer, whatever, graphics. So when you think about where games went to after then, but it looks more like a rough demo of something. But give that a spin if you want to see what was capable on those early systems.
If you're more of a historian.
Yeah, exactly.
This is H.
H
for
history.
historian, isn't it?
Yeah.
We had Effin, we had Jeffin, and now we've got historian.
Yeah.
Historian.
Yeah. I think we're done, aren't we?
That's it. That's the dump.
Done dumping.
There's a fair spread of things going on. But yeah, a lot of near misses.
Quite a lot. Yeah. And a lot of cash-ins. Just cheap licensing. Okay, so what I might do is from my list, just pick the ones that are contenders. So I've got Haunting, High Seas Havoc, and Herzog Zwei. I think those are 3 contenders from my lot.
Okay. Out of my lot, I liked Harvest Moon, Hook, and Hunt for Red October. They were probably the 3 that I would say were pretty still playable and pretty fun up to now.
Yeah.
But I also played all of your lot as well, and I quite liked High Seas Havoc and The Haunting. I think out of my 3, I could probably drop. If I was going to drop one, it would probably be Hunt for Red October, unless you particularly wanted to drop one of yours.
It's kind of Hunt for Red October versus Herzog Zwei, isn't it?
Yeah, so
I didn't actually play Hunt for Red October, so
it's probably the it's probably more of an arcade style game rather than your game, which seems to be quite real and realistic. So, and as you said, it's got historical importance, perhaps. Yeah. So maybe we'll chuck that in the top 5. We need to get a strategy one in there anyway, don't we?
Yeah.
So that means our top table is looking like The Haunting, Herzog Zwei, High Seas Havoc, Harvest Moon, and Hook. Not actually a bad top 5. Not a great top 5, but I was very concerned on day 1 and 2. We're going to have to cancel.
Yeah.
So, was there anything in particular that jumps out at you?
Well, of the Mega Drive games, I think Haunting and High Seas Havoc are my contenders.
Yeah.
I didn't actually get around to playing it. Apart from, I would say I wouldn't pick Hook from the SNES as a contender.
Oh yeah.
It's a worthy top 5, sure. We'll give it that.
Okay.
Like Herzog Zwei, so we've kind of got, if you agree with that, that's already 2 out of the equation.
Yeah, that's fine.
Which leaves us with
Harvest
Moon, your farming game.
Well, we laugh, but actually, it's probably got the most substance behind it out of our top 5. Harvest Moon.
Yeah.
It's probably got the most playability out of it. I think if anyone got into it for an hour, I think they would stick another 7 hours into it. I think and it's got this nice sort of... And actually, I was thinking, isn't it funny that the RPG that gets a Hall of Game, that could get a Hall of Game award, would be the non-RPG RPG. So I thought that would be quite funny in its own right.
Oh, damn, I wish I'd have managed to get a play on this before, because are you really considering that one for Hall of Game this week?
Yeah, I think I am.
And you actually played High Seas Havoc and The Haunting.
Yeah.
Poltergeist.
I did.
Okay. I mean, in a way, I feel like High Seas Havoc was the best game I played this week, but I do want to knock off points just for the knockoff element. Like, why? I just don't know why they did that.
Yeah.
It's just silly. I mean,
They were obviously playing it safe at the time, but that has meant it hasn't quite lasted the test
I
of
don't know
time
if it is
so much.
playing it safe at the time. How would anyone play that and not think, well, this is just a Sonic ripoff?
Yeah.
No one's going to go, oh, hey guys, have you heard about that game that's a bit like Sonic? You know, it could have been out on its own.
Mm.
It's got a different name,
Yeah.
quite clearly, you know. So, anyway,
But
I don't think it deserves to win Hall of Game for that. So The Haunting, can't believe that's the contender.
I know, it's weird
Well-
because it is weird but cool. But at the same time, but they put a lot of effort into all the different scaring things. A lot of effort went into that. But it's quite creepy, isn't it? I thought there's loads of games I've played like GTA where you happily drive over like 12 joggers and not feel bad about it. But this felt really creepy.
Yeah.
I felt like
It
I was a
really
right
is.
creep. It's like you're the Invisible Man and you're snooping round. I suppose
Yeah.
that's what it is. So maybe they've got it right in that game, in that they've got what they needed to,
Yeah.
and it's got that
Very
90s
sinister.
tack of making a pun out of a character name that seems to happen in
Yeah.
all these, like Booger Man and all these related things. They try and crowbar as many bogey fart related names and things in.
So wait a minute. Is this happening? Are we making Harvest Moon?
I hope
this
so.
week? Okay.
I think that would sum up the letter quite well as well.
So I guess this week's Hall of Game, Harvest Moon.
Unbelievable. Farming simulator.
Farming sim game that we could have come up with our own in-house. That's how good it is. You know, hopefully there's a loot-based game under L.
There probably will
we
be,
can pick.
actually. I like how these games are like surprising us. Like, I was taking the mick out of like, oh, why don't you think of a football-based platformer? They've done a really good job. Whereas I don't think that's going to be the last football-based platformer we see.
No,
Hurricanes.
probably not.
Unfortunately.
So anyway,
runner-up. This is going to be trickier, I think, because they're all...
well, I think The Haunting should be the runner-up for sure.
Well, yeah, I can agree with that.
Because High Seas Havoc, I'm sorry guys, you shot yourself in the foot.
It's a good
With
top
your,
5, though. It's a top 5.
It's a very good game, very playable. But yeah, The Haunting, they did their own thing. It's definitely unique. Our two top games are a little bit unique, aren't they?
They are.
So
But that's what we get you here
top
on
5.
A to Zelda.
High
We get a bit of
Seas
everything.
Havoc. Yes. What was the other one? Herzog, Zwei, and Hook.
Hook.
Whew, well, we made it.
We did it. We got there.
The H's are done.
I don't know how we managed to do that. We pulled it off again. But will we live another week? A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
Exactly.
H, I. I next week.
I
I.
will be on SNES.
If you agree with that, say I.
The eyes have it. So,
So I'll be on Mega Drive.
tune in next week. We are the Super Martin Brothers.
Thanks for getting up so early.
Thanks for staying up so late.